look so grim, Jon Snow. If man's really likes you, you'll live another day. And if you don't...
If you were a northerner, you grew up hearing these stories about Mance Rayder. He's the king beyond the wall, and he's the king of the wildlings, and you're growing up, you grow up learning that the wildlings are the bad guys, essentially. You know, there's this kind of endless war going on between those who live in the north and those who live beyond the wall.
I think that the time he spent with Ygritte has primed him to the possibility that there might be more to these people than he thought. Has primed him to the possibility that they might not be what he grew up thinking they were. And he's somebody who was always on the outside in his world to begin with. And he's somebody who's he's never had an unquestioning acceptance of the world he came from, because the world he came from never really accepted him. So I think he's born, or at least was raised, to be open to the possibility that other people might have more to offer than meets the eye.
Why do you want to join us, Jon Snow?
I want to be free.
When he actually meets Mance, he learns that, you know, not only is Mance not villainous, he's actually quite smart, and you know, there's a bit of a mutual admiration going on. I think Mance sees something in Jon that he recognizes in himself, you know, as he was as a young ranger. And Jon sees this man who's actually quite philosophical and has a real strong sense of, you know, what's needed in the coming days and years, and that's ultimately it's going to have to be cooperation, because they're both facing a much greater foe. The real enemy that's out there are the White Walkers, and it's going to be up to Jon, so it'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
Loris, isn't the Queen's gown magnificent? The fabric, the embroidery, the metalwork, I've never seen anything like it.
You might find a bit of armor quite useful once you become queen, perhaps before.
It's an interesting position because Cersei is the Queen Regent. You know, she had been queen for many years as Robert's wife, and now she's the mother of the king. But Margaery is the queen-to-be, and I think there's a real fear on her part that her great power lies in the past, and Margaery is the future. And Margaery is much younger, and she's coming in and starting to seduce her son away from her, and Cersei is really threatened by that.
In a way, I think that Margaery is sort of Cersei 2.0. She's got lots of what Cersei had, and she also has lots of things that Cersei doesn't have in terms of ability to work with people and manipulate people. And I think a lot of that comes from the fact that Margaery genuinely likes people more than Cersei does. And I think that this is intimidating to Cersei in a way, because Cersei, this is one of her weak spots, which she must realize on some level, that nobody likes her very much. And she's owned that and decided she's going to be hated and feared, because being loved is just not an option for her. And seeing somebody who's as smart as she is, as pretty as she is, but younger and also seems to have a real way with other people, that's terrifying to her. And seeing somebody who's able to manipulate her son, who's completely immune to her influence at this point, that's really terrifying, because her son is the key to everything.
I think it's really interesting when you get to see someone like Cersei at a disadvantage, because we're used to her coming in and coolly outmaneuvering everyone else and being one step ahead of everyone else. For me, it's always exciting to find those moments where these characters' humanity glimmers through.
I think Margaery's trying to navigate a very treacherous route through these rocky shoals, and Cersei is trying to figure out, how can I stop this young woman from usurping my power and stealing my son away from me?
Well, as Sir Loras said, Lady Margaery has done this sort of charitable work before. I'm sure she knows what she's doing.
I'm sure she does.
For a great leader who's doing something immensely unpopular for a certain segment, whether it's the warlocks or the slave masters or whatnot, she's creating a lot of enemies, and powerful enemies, and those people are going to try to stop her regardless of how powerful she becomes. And it's something she's actually, in a weird way, used to, because she grew up with this. She grew up running from assassins with her brother. You know, from the earliest time she can remember, she was being spirited from one city to another, one step ahead of Robert Baratheon's assassins, because there were so many people who wanted to destroy the Targaryen family and make King Robert happy. And now there are assassins out there for all sorts of different reasons, because she's made even more enemies. But I think in her mind, this is just the price you pay for being Daenerys Targaryen, being the last of the Targaryens, and it's not going to stop her.